Hey everybody, welcome to this Wednesday wrap-up with Taste Life Twice. Lots of stuff to cover today, so grab your cup of tea and have a sit down. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard. If you don't know me yet, I am a historical fiction author and an eclectic reader. So what I'm going to go over today is the reading side, and I'm going to tell you about 10 romances that I read in September and a few coming attractions, because I always like to do that on my channel. One of the things that is a difference today is that it's not a full wrap-up. So if you're used to me going through 20 books in the hour, I felt like that was a little much, and so I'm going into a little more detail, so they're more like book reviews and giving each one a theme. So today is the romance roundup. You saw the thumbnail, and it's like half of the reading I did. So why is that, you ask? We'll get to that in a moment. Just wanted to say hello and point people to the question of the day in the chat. I know Shannon is here, so I wanted to say hello. Thanks for coming by. Shannon was asking if any of those were fantasy, because she has a fantasy romance in the cauldron, let's say, coming out. And then she had an answer for the question. So let's introduce the question. Who's the next author you're going to try for the first time? So I have a first timer in my stack. I have several first timers, but one that I was very excited about. So I thought I'd ask you guys, is there someone that you're excited to try for the first time in your TBR? And Shannon's answer was Gina Chen, author of the romantic fantasy novel Violet Made of Thorns. And I don't have a cover for that in my head. So, yeah, that's a new one to me. Very good recommendation. Was there something special about reading romances in September? No, there was no readathon going on. I just, you know what it was? September, it was miserable here. It was really hot. I have no air conditioning. I was going through some depression episodes, and I was just like laying on the floor. And you know what's best when you're in that mood where you can't focus and you're just not feeling good, is to escape into a fantasy. And what is better for escapist fantasy than a romance novel, really? So that is why there is this impressive stack in front of me right now. And we're out of it, right? So it helped me climb back out, and we're out of it, and we're on the publishing track, and it did its job. So thank you, romance. So let's go ahead and start. There's no readathon reason, just like personal reasons. Let's pop that up and plunge into the first two. So the first two were actually ones that I've had tagged as Booktube Recommendations, especially from a romance booktuber, Crystal's Bookish Life. And she has, what's the phrase? Shouted about these from the rooftops. I got them both from my local library. This is The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne, and this is pretty popular on Booktube, I think. And this is Wicked and the Wallflower by Sarah MacLean. So, I have so many stacks. I'm going to put it back there for now and open up to my notes. Let's see. So The Highwayman. We just did a smash or pass panel on romance tropes, and let me tell you, this has some tropes that I was not really on board with. So it's got kidnapping, it's got secret identity, some sort of cliche language that can be good or bad, according to me. The mask settled on his face, the light died in her eyes, some of these types of things. But basically, it's a it's a spoiler, so I can't say that. Okay, there's another big trope that I do like, but I can't say it because it's a spoiler. Anyway, so The Highwayman, this guy has a bad reputation to hide the fact that he had a terrible childhood, and he's trying to make his life go better. And this woman who is a police detective in like 1860s, 70s, pretty early, so stretching the bounds of like historical fiction, is kidnapped and, forced proximity, but not the kind that I like, and all sorts of weird stuff. So yes, emotional connection, but ultimately not for me. So that's a no on Crystal's first recommendation. Yes. Hi, Chrissy. Welcome. So the other one was Wicked and the Wallflower, which I read later in the month. And where'd that one go? Okay. Again, similar tropes. We've got like content warnings for tortured children, a vengeance theme, trauma at the heart of everything that sets the conflict into motion. Let's see. Pushing someone away to save them from themselves. There's that trope in there. And I don't think that's ever a good plan. And it's almost like getting close to the miscommunication trope, which like drives me crazy. Because it's like, just think about it. I don't know. That frustrates me. I mean, yes, emotional connection, spicy moments. There are good points to the book, but one of the things that set my teeth on edge was the fact that these are like benevolent rulers of the ghetto. So this guy and his friends are like kings of the East End, basically, of London in the 19th century. And they rule with an iron fist and everyone's scared of them, but they also like give out charity and the kids know that they're safe with them. And it's giving me a very, serf to vassal to lord vibe. And, unless Richard is here and he wants to pursue that early capitalism model, I'm not really down with it because it's affirming that model, which I don't like. There was also something that I caught in speech where someone said something and instead of saying, "Is it?" which is the natural form of speech in this place and time, they said, "It is," which just sounded so American and took me right out of the story. So very, very simple thing, but it's one of those like, someone should have caught that. And this is a big author. Like, she has tons and tons of books and people love her. So that was surprising. Let's see. I did have a line that I really liked, which is that men raised in the dark will do anything for light. And that's in one of the like confessional speeches. So there were, again, good points, but ultimately not for me. So I don't know if I'm going to trust Crystal's recommendations anymore. Her videos are great. Her vlogs are great. She's got dogs. She does like workouts, and she has lots and lots of books that she goes through and recommends and talks about the different fine points. But I don't know. It might not be a good matchup. So we'll see. So those are my first two books, both mass market paperbacks, both fair to middling. The next group is a first timer and an old timer. So those were both first timers, but kind of like strikeouts, unless I want to try something completely different by those authors. So for the next two, when I was on that Smash or Pass romance tropes panel, I referred to this author and no one knew her. So that was a burn, and I'm gonna keep saying her name now so that people get it on their radar. Mary Stewart was writing in like the 50s and 60s, and she is the doyenne, if you will, of romantic suspense. She's like the first one who really did that. And so I usually really like her, but this one was pretty dated. So this is Wildfire at Midnight by Mary Stewart. And let's see, my notes. There's initial contact after a long time. Let's see. Which I thought was deftly done. So she's very good at furtive looks and dialogue and body movements that communicate a lot. So So let me first say the thing that's dated. So conventions about divorce in the 1950s were very different in the UK, I would say. And so writing then and having this couple that is technically divorced and having them be sort of the focus, and like the uncertainty is not really, will they get back together or not at all? It's like, is he the killer? And you're like, what? That's the suspense part. It's very well done, but one of the main things that keeps that person, the divorced husband, distant is that, like, not wanting to talk about divorce and having that be morally not good. I'm not saying this well, but hopefully you get what I mean. So they see each other. Nicholas came quickly around the corner of the stairs and started down the last flight into the hall. He saw me straight away. He paused almost imperceptibly, then descended the last few stairs and came straight across the hall. Alistair, I said under my breath to the guy next to her, furious to find that my throat felt tight and dry. Alistair turned, saw Nicholas, and took the plunge as smoothly as an Olympic swimmer. Hi, Nick, look who's here. Do you remember Janet Brooke? So this is like the first time they're seeing each other. They're both surprised to find themselves in a remote location in the Scottish Isles with the person that they didn't think would be there. And so what seems like very outlandish, pun intended, actually makes sense much later. And yeah, it was over. The awkward moment, the dreaded moment, sliding past in a ripple of commonplaces, the easy mechanical politenesses that are so much more than empty convention. They are the grieves and cuirasses that arm the naked nerve. And now we could turn from one another in relief as we were gathered into the group, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the grieves and cuirasses that arm the naked nerve. I don't even know what those are. I just know they're like types of old-fashioned armor. So I was like, wow, that's so cool. I love Mary Stewart's writing. So maybe not this one, but see my channel, search her name for the other recommendations that are awesome. So that was the old timer. Oh, we have a whole bunch of comments. I will interrupt myself to see what's going on in the comments. What happened? Oh boy. Yes. Okay, we've got pumpkins. Hey, RC. Jim is here. Hello. Just popping to say hello, popping up because romance really isn't my jam. I hit the like button. Thank you, Jim. But you might get recommendations this way, and then you can expand your repertoire, right? All right, we're playing with emojis. Yes. Richard is here. Richard, did you catch my comment about capitalism? Maybe that's what called you in. Yes, Chrissy will have to read Mary Stewart now. Yes, she's good. Oh dear, we're competing between the genres. No, I'm not shading the UK. I'm shading a romance author who is, yeah, well, you'll have to rewind, like with a pencil and a cassette. Yeah, exactly. I called him and he came. Oh, now there's shade. Now there's shade in the chat. Okay, I can skip all that. Oh dear. Okay, yep, British. Oh gosh, okay. French shade. That's not allowed on my channel. No, Richard, that's not allowed. Okay, now zooming back into the discussion. First timer, old timer. So I was very excited to pick up a Jasmine Guillory. This is called By the Book. Sorry, it's another library, so it's in shiny paper. Jasmine Guillory is a Black writer, and she does Black romances. And so this is part of the diversifying romance, because I do usually read historicals. So this was a contemporary. And it kind of was like what I was wanting from the other Black girl, and that turned into something completely different. It's set in publishing, so it was kind of fun to peek in behind the curtain to see a writer writing about, not from the writer's POV, from the assistant editor's POV, who is like anxious to get ahead, which is where we started with the other Black girl. So the premise is she's trying to get ahead. She's having a hard time. Her boss is a real ton of bricks, shall we say, not very encouraging. She's been there for 2 years and she's gotten no advancement, and her dreams are slowly curling up and dying, basically. Relatable. And then she gets to go out to this conference on the West Coast and makes her bid for freedom, which is like, I'm going to convince this one author that we're having trouble with to write the book and get in it on past deadline, but like at all, right? And that author is the love interest. So it's really cute. It's really, really cute. Let's see what I had in my notes. I put it. Did I not take notes for this one? No, I did. Okay. So it's a Beauty and the Beast. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And let me tell you, this is the season of Beauty and the Beast retellings from my friend Neil's The Story of 100 Promises, which has just come out last week, which is a queer Beauty and the Beast retelling, to the Belle of Belgrave Manor, which is by Mimi Matthews, who we will hear about in a moment. It just came out yesterday, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure that that's really a useful descriptor. I think it's more zoomed out than that. But the fun thing by the book is that she puts in little Easter eggs that are actually Beauty and the Beast, but not Disney copyright infringements. And those are fun. Those are fun to read. Such as I talked to my teacup and the candlestick, because she's like just going crazy. And yeah, so I like the setup. I like the setting. I like the development of the characters and the relationship. I'm not a big fan of like a heroine who bluffs and then her bluff is called, and that's what gets people engaged and like forced to look at each other. Because the bravado is like, that's not what I do. So when a heroine does that, I'm just like, I don't know. It's just not my thing. So, but once you got past that and she was staying there and trying to convince him to write this book, and helping him work through his life story, it was like, oh, and this and this and this. And then it rolled on from there. So it was just needed that spark. So very, very good book. Would recommend if someone's in the mood for a sweet romance and Jasmine Guillory. Definitely going to be reading more. Next we have the ebooks. So let me get my overlays ready. I don't know what's going on with the French comments. I will just tell you, no shade to the French. On parle français ici. Si tu n'en veux pas, va-t'en. So Kirsty says, I like Jasmine Guillory. Haven't read that one yet. I actually have Drunk on Love, which just came out. And I was like one of the first people to put it on hold. So I have that one next. So I'm set to go. Potatoes and chips. Yep. I'm not sure. Nope. Beauty and the Beaster eggs. I like it. Thank you. Shannon says, my current work in progress is inspired by Beauty and the Beast too, but more influenced by the original version and not Disney's. Sticking to your brand. Yep. The darker versions of the fairy tales. Like, someone tell me, was ACOTAR supposedly a Beauty and the Beast retelling and then just went off the rails? I thought I heard someone say that as a characterization, and I was like, no, it goes off the rails. So, like, did I imagine that or what? Maybe someone can tell me. Melissa's here, lurking. Kidlet is homesick. Oh, I'm ducking in and out. Oh, I hope they feel better soon. Yeah. Does Richard like reading romance? Sure, why not? I've only read one proper romance book by Chris Kinney. There you go, fellow author. There's a romance subgenre for everybody, Richard. So come on in. Maybe pull Jim in as well. Yeah, and isn't Adam writing a romance? So go nudge him. I've tried and he's not budging. So maybe he needs another person looking in on him. Yes, Shannon says ACOTAR started as Beauty and the Beast inspired. So I don't know. I think it might be a marketing grab. What do you think? Agree or disagree? Men can read and write romance too. Yes, and we're waiting for the gem to fall from Adam Stevenson's publishing hands. Yeah, so hopefully he'll come and weigh in at some point. Okay, so I did not get my overlays ready. Here we go. There we go. So first off, we have. I'm trying to like stay with my outline here and stay on task, but it's so hard when you guys are so active and engaged. I love it. Such a good problem. So the banner is blocking the book, so let's do that. Molten Heart by Katie Saulitis. And Shannon was asking earlier if there is a fantasy romance in the mix, and this is the fantasy romance that I was referring to, which means we're halfway through the books. Katie Saulitis is a fellow author-tuber. She has a podcast called Spilling Ink. She does mainly paranormal romance and fantasy romance. And this was a dragon shifter novella. So it's shorter. It's about a dragon shifter from a sort of land hidden from humans and a volcanologist on Hawaii, and how they meet, and how there's like a villain and an event and yeah, there's like a culture clash as well as a betrayal. There's all sorts of interesting ingredients in there, and I think it worked together really well. So let's stop using my brain and look at my notes. Here we go. Gets youthful competitiveness just right, trying to prove self. So the dragon character is a young dragon, which is hundreds of years or whatever. But the dragon within his own culture had a very clear role of like wanting to prove himself, going out to explore, and I thought that was well set up. She did have the line, "I'll be fine, don't worry about me," coming from the hero's mouth, and I was like, I roll, Katie. But it was glorious. It fit in the moment. I just had to laugh. Let's see. He's looking to explore the world and grow up and do all the things. Not looking for love, but he finds respect and lust, which is sort of like two sides of the triangle, and a star-crossed match. And so that was a feel good. It was a good setup there. And she, the love interest for our main character, is smart but has a blind spot. And let's see, she's a scientist but foolhardy, very dedicated to her principles, and sort of a selfless scientist. And so, yeah, that's definitely something that I like as a main character. Strong STEM woman character. So yeah, I liked it as a setting, as a love story, as the emotional connection. There was lots of action. I think with Katie's stories, it's going to be like a lot of action and not spicy scenes necessarily, although there was one, but they're physical, like things get hit and the danger is like physical danger. So if you like action and you want to combine it with romance to see if that is your mix, I would definitely recommend The Dragon Shifter Tale Molten Heart. It's a novella. So again, it's short and easy to try. And then the other ebook, hold on, let me catch up here. Nia's here. Hello. I'm also in the ACOTAR's retelling of a Scottish ballad called Tamlin. So Tamlin's the name of the character, but the ballad is a guy who's drunk and he goes on a journey and he finds the fairies and he like observes them and then runs away from them because he doesn't want to get trapped. And it's a long recitation. I don't really know if that applies. Yeah. Yes, Dragon Shifter. Let's see if I said Katie's name enough times that she comes into the chat as well. That'd be fun. Yeah, cool cover, right? Yes. Court of Mist and Fury, the next Moss book, is supposed to be based on Hades and Persephone. No. I'm nixing that. Like, it's vague. I mean, it's a bad guy who would be Hades. It's not an underworld. I don't know. I think it's a marketing grab, so that's why I'm not going to trust any of these, like, this mixed with this for SJM books anymore. Just not. Okay, so back to here, we've got The Siren of Sussex. So we're back to a historical romance. This is by Mimi Matthews, who you've already heard me mention. Okay, I'm going to take a break because I'm tripping over my words here. I get too excited and they just come out too fast. So gorgeous cover here involving a horse. This is the start of a series that is about horsewomen who are really good riders, and they go out to ride in the park and sort of show off, and that's like their thing with their friend group. And you get to go through each of 4 different women's stories and how they find their love match, which is great. Siren of Sussex is the first, and let's see, this is a 5-star for me. It's hard. Mimi Matthews, I think, is a phenomenal romance writer. So if you're looking how to do happy ever after and you haven't read Mimi Matthews, definitely read her latest. She's a clean romance writer. So again, Shannon, it's not fantasy, but if you're looking for a sort of a side adjacent genre that is clean romance, you could definitely look up Mimi Matthews for these. So basically the premise is this one young woman is the second sister in a bunch of sisters, and she comes to London to try to use her horse riding skills to show off and actually present herself well. She doesn't feel very good about herself, and she thinks that's her one talent, so she thinks she can show off in that way and get a suitor. And she's got family troubles at home that she's trying to make up for, and she ends up meeting up with this tailor. The tailor has family troubles of his own and is trying to like work his way up in the world. So they've each got a lot writing on, pun intended, pun not intended, but now I'm going to take credit for it. A lot writing on the fact that she looks good in her writing habits and her clothing for the season. And people know that he made her clothing and that he's like the designer to go to so that his business can grow. And there's always like complicating factors and stuff. So I loved it. Development, the dialogue, the pining. If you're one for pining, go to Mimi Matthews. That's all I'll say. The side plot of the older sister, only comes into contact with the main plot once. And the timing was very convenient. So that was like one of the things where I was like, okay, this is like the one thing that I'm going to let pass because you needed it for the plot to develop. So, okay. And I said the main plot, however, is beautifully judged. It balances elements of outcast status, power relations, dreams deferred, and family loyalties. And so you get to see how they all interact. And an important point is that she has the tailor be Anglo-Indian or Indian-British. I don't know how you would call it in this time period. But his family is from India, and this is the 1860s, I think. And so he's making his way in London. And if we were at any recent discussions about sensitivity readers, Mimi Matthews herself is biracial, and so she specifically chose to put a character in that would have similar type of split loyalties or like feelings of outcast status and feeling like you're not part of either world. So I thought that was a great detail and definitely enriches the story. So yes, 5 stars. I did note that there's a self-denial theme, and I'm less keen on that, but I'm a selfish American, so take that with a grain of salt. And I loved the quote, "We're a country of meddlers, often to disastrous effect," which is talking about the Brits, Richard. So take that with, I don't know, a French fry of salt. I don't know. Yeah. So that was great. Loved it. So those are the ebooks for the month. Let's pop back in. What is the next thing? The next thing is a reminder to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this stream. As well as the fact that I'm coming out with a book soon. So, there's a newsletter you can sign up for if you want to learn about it. I was going to get the link for it and I forgot to. Anyway, it's in my Twitter, it's in my Instagram, it's all there. So coming soon. The cover reveal is this Friday, and hopefully I will have a pre-order link at that time that you can get through any retail shop that you like, because I use Books to read. So yeah, that is what is coming down the pike. Let's see. Yay! Thanks for the rec. Of course, I love promoting books that I love. Jordan Skyblogs, hello. The cover is beautiful. It looks historical, and that's not my thing, but the cover is gorgeous. yeah, and they're good covers. I'm not sure because she's not. She doesn't talk about her behind the scenes publishing stuff, like us author tubers definitely do. But I think Mimi Matthews started out her Parish Orphans of Devon series indie pub, and you'll see why in a moment. And then I got a contract. So I think she's a hybrid author, but I can't tell. So yeah, bad props for all her covers and all her writing. Yeah, hello. Welcome. What is next? September readathon. So I've got 2 more romances, but they're my favorites, so I'm holding them till the end, just to tease you guys. And I'm doing the outliers in between. So, like I said, this is for romance, but we've got some like anti-romance and outlier romance. So, there was a readathon that I'm including in today's broadcast, which is Shaketember. What anti-romance did I read for Shaketember? Can anyone guess? Can anyone guess the anti-romance before I pop it up, or remember if I mentioned it? I buddy read it with Jeremy Fee, if that helps. Let me find my notes here. There's not many notes on this. We buddy read, but like very lightly. We just sort of emailed back and forth a few quotes and questions and interpretations, because I think I left it a little late, and Jeremy has read this so many times, and he's seen the movies, and he's like all in it, kind of like, haven't said it yet, right? Does anybody guess? No, not 50 Shades of Grey. It's for Shaketember, Richard. Did you hear that part? Othello by Shakespeare. So this is the one book I read for Shaketember, and I read it with Jeremy, and we sort of bounced ideas off after we finished. And it's an anti-romance because there are 2 couples, and they both end up split up. One ends up dead, and like my hero is the woman who ends up alive. So yeah, I'm glad I read it because I think I've said before, I have like 4 or 5 Shakespeare books that I grew up with in the house but never read because I didn't focus on them in school. And unless you read these with someone else or in school, it's really hard to connect to them, or watch a film like Jeremy recommended. So I looked up one of the scenes that we were talking back and forth about, which is "Put money in thy purse." And Kenneth Branagh is Iago, who gives that speech in one of the adaptations that Jeremy recommended. But when I looked it up on YouTube, there was another that had Sir Ian McKellen as Iago from 1990. And he is great. I'm a big fan. So, I like Kenneth Branagh too, but yeah, Othello, I'll give you the emoji review. So Othello, I gave a frowny face, like dude's way too easily manipulated and doesn't trust his wife. Desdemona, I gave an eye roll because like she's so one-dimensional and acted upon with no agency of her own that I was like, Come on, girl. Iago, I gave a question mark because we didn't settle this between us. Jeremy likes to think he's a mastermind who has been evil all his life. But the fact that we keep hearing honest Iago, this and that, makes me think that maybe he was good, and then he had this inciting incident of thinking that Othello cheated with his wife, and so hatches this big plot of revenge, and then turns bad, obviously. And I'm like, that seems to be what's indicated, but there's not much detail on it. So that's a big ambiguous detail for a character. So that's why he's a question mark. And then Emilia, my favorite character, even though she is an agent of chaos with the handkerchief scene, she does have a very good speech at the end, and she tries to do right by her friend, and she tosses her husband on his ear, and like that was glorious. Unfortunately, people still died, but yeah, so she's my favorite. So Shaketember, I success, I guess. So thanks to Jeremy for keeping me on task with that one and eye on the prize. So I've gotten through another Shakespeare play. Woohoo! Oh dear. 50 Shakes of Grey. No, Richard. Good pun, but no. There's nothing romantic about his stories ever. I don't know why people say that. It's so weird. I don't know if you're talking about Shakespeare or Yale James here, but either apply, right? Yay! Noah's here to say hey at work, but I'm listening. Nice to see you. Everyone who reads it must converse. If you don't know, over at Noah's channel, he's got big changes coming, including writing changes. So that was exciting to hear, and we patiently awaiting the outcome. I know he's at the very beginning of the journey, but yeah, very fun to hear. Eva's here! Welcome, Eva. Oh, okay, talking about Shakespeare. Yeah. No romance. I mean, I would say there's romance in some of his books, but it's fleeting. And often fake. So yeah, not great for romance, but that's why I'm calling it an anti-romance for today's purposes. Totally right. Yes. Woohoo! So that's the Shakespeare one, and then the other outlier is kind of a hard one. So Rachel Joyce has written a few other books, but this is the first time I've read her. It's called Miss Benson's Beetle, and interesting title, right? This is set in like immediate post-war World War II, and it goes back to World War One. In terms of some of the characters' foundational stories, or not the main character, Miss Benson. And I would call this a self-love story, because Miss Benson is someone who has been denying herself and sort of blocked in a Freudian way, like her whole life. So the fact that she finally holds on to this tiny thread, which is that she wants to be an entomologist and discover a beetle in the tropics. And then sort of holds on to it for dear life, and it pulls her through these impossible adventures in sort of a madcap fashion. It's entertaining, but it's more about her journey from self-effacing invisible woman in 1946 Britain to, intrepid explorer with a friend and who can rely on herself in situations that are you would never come across in Britain. So so it's a great story. It's handled in a very particular way. It's the humor, would I call it British humor? I guess, because it doesn't make sense all the time. Isn't that the definition of British humor? So yeah. She gets an assistant, and this other woman who is her polar opposite. She's sort of a dark horse in the story, character-wise, and you sort of know something is coming. There's a revelation, and it creates conflict. But they end up like fast friends, true friends. And so that was nice to see. And I was sort of like seeing parallels with Thelma and Louise and like wondering where it was going to go. So the suspense of it was pretty good. But I said this is kind of an odd one, not only because of the humor, which is sort of a small thing, but a couple other major factors. Fat representation in this book. Miss Benson is a large woman, and you're reminded of this in sort of uncomfortable ways. And I don't know if it's like brave for trying to mention it in a natural way, or it's harping on it too much and sort of othering the character to keep saying that she's insecure about it. So that kind of made me uncomfortable reading through it. And the other big piece is the PTSD representation. We have a secondary character who has major PTSD from World War II. He's a prisoner of war, and we're in his POV for intermittent chapters, and it's really painful. And when you're looking at him through other characters' eyes, he's definitely sort of shunted aside and not respected and vilified. He's not a villain, but it was just a very interesting character choice. But I don't know if it helps the story to be in his POV and like put things so baldly, or if it doesn't do harm to audience members who see themselves in his compulsions and then see that sort of reviled, if that makes sense. So very interesting, but I would say definitely has content warnings for people on this, and would love to hear someone else's opinion. I haven't seen this around Booktube, so maybe I'll look for someone else's review and see if they have a majorly different take on it and I just missed something huge. Entirely possible. Let's see here. Eva saying Shakespeare is not a voice I enjoy. His sonnets are okay, though. Yeah. Interesting. Now I'm trying to remember the channel that does Shakespeare sonnets, and I can't remember it. It's another pun. They do a great job of breaking down the sonnets and relating them in a humorous way in drag. Yeah. Jordan says he's like the master of what is now known as bully romance. Shakespeare? Bully romance. I haven't read a bully romance. I know Chrissy might have commented on those. But yeah, both less spice levels. Yeah, no spice. No spice in Shakespeare. It's all incest. Okay, and with that hot take, we'll just glide blithely on. Noah says he has a live on Friday, November 4th. Ryan will be on with me. That's his co-writer. And we will be sharing some writings. Cool. Excellent. Miss Benson's Beetle sounds like something Eva would like. Yeah. Slow read with a full story. I don't know if I get British. Yeah. See, it's like hit or miss, right? Yeah. Richard says it's impossible to define, but you know it when you see it. Right. That's kind of hard. Did the title have any content warnings? I don't believe so. Where would I find those? At the beginning? Let's see. We've got praise for, we've got also by, we've got title, copyright, dedication, quotes. We got a map. We got a half title. See, I know all the fancy names for these because I format my own books. Yeah, that's a flex. I don't see any. I don't see it on the copyright page. So yeah, well, I'll look into other reviews and report back. Curious if the author publisher included any. You can't have a content warning for a British viewer. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Noah. All right, so that's those two, the outlier romances. Two more sections coming up. Okay, coming attractions. We've got two big ones besides the obvious book coming out on October 25th. This Friday, I am doing another Booktok inspired tag called There Are 10 But. Katie Books was the first one to do a form of this, but I don't think he understood the original game, so I think I'll be doing his, but also my own version. So tune in to that on Friday, 10:14. And then Sunday, 10:16. And I'm saying it that way just to get under your skin, Richard. The Put a Finger Down panel. So I've got 4, maybe 5 folks who are going to be joining me on Sunday, October 16th at 11 a.m. Pacific. And the Put a Finger Down challenge is kind of like reveal your secrets in Truth or Dare. Have you ever this? And if you have, you put your finger down. So you've seen it on other people's channels, but we haven't done this for Bookish Habits. We've done tags and we've done the finger down challenge. But we haven't combined them. So I thought this would be fun to do as part of my Booktok inspired month of videos. So that will be, again, next Sunday. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready for the final 2, my 2 favorites of September romance? They're right here. So I'll start with the one you haven't heard about. Denise Williams. So The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams is her second novel. I read her first novel because she was on A Mighty Blaze. That's how I learned about her. And let's see. What is the name of the first one? I've already forgot. It's the How to Fail at Flirting? Yes, How to Fail at Flirting, which was great. No, I didn't get it from A Mighty Blaze. I got that recommendation from Cynthia at Book Whimsy. This is another Booktube rec. Sorry, I forgot. Okay. Anyway, yes, so go Cynthia. I can trust her recommendations. This is her second book, and it's about a woman who is working at a magazine and, again, trying to advance her career, has this idea to try out a fitness app that's, like, very holistic. And the love interest is the guy who's the who runs the company of the fitness app, and he becomes her personal trainer, and they sort of, like, spar and get over it, and then have workplace romance issues and, like, not loyalty, morality issues and, like, professional boundaries and stuff. And then sort of, like, get over it, and then, like, it's so good. The tension is so good. If you're not one who likes workplace romances, I would just say she makes it much more believable. If you're kind of like, people in an office, they're not going to see each other that way. Denise Williams finds a way to make it people you're working with, but not like the obvious, like, secretary or, I don't know, group project thing. It's like consultants or new hires, or like there's a spark, right? And I think she does this really well. So yes, and lots of humor. So funny. So funny. So definitely recommend. Let's see. I have notes for this one. Let me look at my notes now that I'm done gushing. So many good romances, right? Let's see. Empathy between friends. Oh, yeah. So if you are thinking that sometimes romances don't always have well-rounded love interest characters, whether it's the man or the woman or whoever else in the relationship, I really liked how Denise Williams portrayed the background of each side, the conflicts of each side, the struggles of, like, attraction versus previous experience, attraction versus professional boundaries, like all the things that came into play. And the guy had, like, some real great empathy moments with his friends. I can't read my writing here. I guess the note is lost to history. Let's see. Yeah, real happiness. The quote I had outlined was, he was thinking about, like, whether to go for it with her, and knowing she was proud of herself reminded me I was doing something that mattered. So it's both something that makes him happy because she's happy, but also something that reaffirms that what he's doing professionally is what he was meant to do. He's doing something that matters. So it, like, reinforces the tension. So that was great. Humor is great. The fake dating move is spontaneous. So if you attended our talk on tropes, fake dating, I mean, yeah, but for the right reason, right? And this one, it's like, we're not dating. They're both like, no, I can't respond to this attraction. And then when it actually happens, it feels really natural because there's a really great other character that they're reacting to, and I was like, that was a smooth move. That was a smooth move on the author's part. Just funny. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, definitely recommend. She's got another one that is, it's got a wedding thing on the cover because it's like a wedding planner as one of the characters, I think. So she's got a more recent book that I would definitely be reading in the future. So yeah. And the last one, can you guess who the author is? Have I mentioned her enough? Let's see. Oh no. Okay, Jordan says someone recommended that to me and I hated it. Now I feel bad after all your gushing. Fastest Way to Fall is the one I hated. Yeah, felt like it could have been so good and it failed. Oh, see, you get both points here. Like maybe read another Denise Williams and see if it's the writing style or whether it's like whatever the circumstances were, Jordan, and maybe it'll get better. I don't know. Anita says internet outage ended just in time to see the end. Welcome, Anita. Nice to see you. No, the romance highlight is not A.S. Bud. No. It's the author I've mentioned like twice already today. So Mimi Matthews, it's called A Convenient Fiction. And I think this is one of her original indie pubs because it's called Perfectly Proper Press. And telltale sign, it's print on demand, is that you have that in the back. I don't know if anyone else knows that trick, but as a bookseller, it became patently obvious that meant it was print on demand, which is mostly indie pubs. But it's one of the 4-book series Parish Orphans of Devon. And let's see. I don't often identify A.S. Byatt made me lose my concentration. I don't often identify writerly things when I go through a book, if you know what I mean. Like the inciting incident or the first milestone or like the act 1 to act 2, whatever. I've been to places and workshops where they examine structure and they try to do it with films and whatnot. And it's been on The Mighty Blaze. And I've listened to it and I have tried to outline a book according to those milestones, and it just doesn't seem to mesh with how I unroll a story in my brain when I'm writing. So when I read, I don't normally see those things. I'm trying to be swept through along with the story, right? But in a good way, I saw things that were setups in this book, and I was like, oh, yes, I saw that. I see where you're going. I like this. And it was like a little signal that something was coming, and like you didn't know how it was going to get there, but it felt like, I mean, titillation is not the right word, but just like laying down tracks or laying down the pathway that was going to come. So I loved it. Let's see. The hero and the heroine have common ground with the power of observation. So, yes. And that one was real relatable because if you're someone who felt as a child like you were always on the outside looking in at people, like hearing someone relate to someone else saying you learn from the powers of observation, that just like hit the right note with me. Let's see. Yep, there's another signpost, writer noticing. There was one small thing that was like a willful misunderstanding, and coming back, I can't remember if I noticed it going through, but I was like, oh, that was like a red herring, and that was a little too much, but you get swept through, and the rest of it is so glorious. What other great things are in a convenient fiction? So obviously, as the title suggests, it's about a marriage of convenience, but that doesn't come into play until the very end. Is that a spoiler? I don't think so. Anyway, this guy who doesn't have connections is a good gambler. And he gets this guy who's not a great person into debt by losing to him a lot. And instead of being able to pay him back, which he can't, he says, well, introduce me to a nice rich lady. And he goes, okay, I have one of those in my neighborhood. We go to the neighborhood, and the nice rich lady she's fine. She's not like a key character here. She's friends with the nice poor lady, who is our main character and the love interest. And she's in the neighborhood, and she's got family issues and a lot of stuff that she's coping with. And she's just a brilliant character. She's, yeah, I like her a lot. So 5-star recommend. And that brings us to our full 10 books of romances and anti-romances, because I'm going to have 3 wrap-ups this month, and I had to fit them all into categories somehow. So next Wednesday's wrap-up is going to be, I think, the nonfiction one, and then the next Wednesday is the mystery one. So I've got my little categories, and I'll get those thumbnails up in a little bit. But this week I'm really hoping to like finalize. I'm doing my proofreading for the manuscript, like the final. I did all my M dashes, so now I'm going to be looking at my quotation marks. Fun author life stuff, Noah. What you got to look forward to? All right, so let me catch up here. I don't know if I would consider it a romance anymore. I read this a long time ago, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, and I remember it being very complicated and sort of overwrought. And like the mystery element was what kept me going. But I would definitely recommend The Weight of Ink over Possession for something that's similar. So The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish, in case anyone is thinking about reading A.S. Byatt's Possession. Eva says, same, I don't use those terms in my brain even while editing. Not until I have to. Yeah. Some people have a natural storytelling ability, and it'd be like learning it in a new language, using the terms English gives things. Yeah, or like learning something backwards. Like if you dance a certain way and then you have to learn the other role, and it'd be like, my brain, like the plasticity is not there. Yeah. Yeah. Foreshadowing. The one episode I'm referring to is definitely a foreshadowing, but it was also like crumbs, I guess, the crumbs to lead you to the end. I liked it. Shannon says, there are a few things I'll note, like when a plan is explained, it means the plan will go wrong. Oh, okay. Or that most groups of characters are odd, so that there are at least 2 of them not getting along. Interesting. Okay. So Shannon has her own version of like Chekhov's gun in the first scene, right? If you notice this thing, it means they're setting up this other thing. Like, that's really interesting. Huh. Yeah, I'm not going to say what the specific thing is because it's a little spoilery. Jordan says, we're here with the writer's jargon. I can't do that with my writing, and I hate when I can recognize it in other writing, which is why I think Fastest Way to Fall failed for me. I saw everything coming. And I mean everything outside the fact that it's a romance. Oh, yeah. I don't know. The ex-girlfriend character. I thought she was a good like thorn in the side. And the home visit. I liked the home visit. I thought that was fun. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jordan. Shannon says, I pick up so many scenes, books, and movies that have that single tear moment. Tear? I'm not sure. Yes, launch day is getting close. How do you even type an M dash? So the issue with what I did was that I got beta reading feedback and put my stories in Google Docs so that I could do comments and track changes. But then when I took it out of Google Docs, it didn't make my double dashes into M dashes automatically. It kept them. So I had to go through and change like 40 double hyphens to M dashes. And I took a few out, but, only a few. Yes. It's not even editing. It's formatting. And proofreading, I guess. Several ways. One trick is to do, oh, she's educating Richard. 2 dashes followed by a letter and then hit the space bar. Yes, I know that trick. The 2 dashes turn into an M dash. Yeah, and in Scrivener, you only have to do 2 dashes and it automatically knows. You don't have to have a letter and the thing. What I do like naturally now, and this is going to be weird for people out of context, but when I have to do a dash and a quote, which I do because I love interrupting people in my dialogue, it won't turn the quote into a closed quote unless you have a letter. So I'll say, what do you mean, dash, dash, L, quote, and then it'll turn the quote, and then I'll go back and delete the L, but it won't work otherwise. Am I missing something, some easier way to do this? I don't think so. It's pretty natural with my fingers now, so. Oh, Anita loved Possession, but her other books, not so much. Biographer's Tale bored me to tears. Yeah, I do that in movies, says Eva. That's why I especially love movies that get me and a twist hits. I go into books and movies blind whenever I can, due to being able to read between the blurb. Haha. Shannon says I apply all of that to books, movies, and TV shows. Yeah. Your story brain gets engaged, right? I don't read romance often. Luckily, Possession is a literary mystery. Yeah. See earlier discussion for men and romance. Shannon says instead of crying, scenes will have a character with a single tear falling. Oh, and you like those scenes? Wait. Let me see. What did you say in your previous comment that I didn't get? I pick up so many scenes that have that single tear moment. Still can't tell whether that means you like it or you don't. Because for me, depending on the treatment, a single tear falling can feel as cliche as the mask settled on his face or the light died in her eyes. And it's just like, could you not think of a different way to say this? Because this makes it feel like cinematically, I don't know, inauthentic, I'll say. But if you're doing it in a different way, like a single tear, I don't know. You can, it just depends. It hits different. That's all I can say. I didn't use find and replace. I used find, and then in each instance, I checked to make sure I couldn't replace it with something else, and then did it. So it took me longer than a find and replace. Nope, saw those coming, and the wrap up pissed me off more so. Well, Jordan, I will just say, for personal reasons, I was into the escapist fantasy in September, so there we go. We're different goals. If you want to recommend a different workplace romance that you know of, maybe like that would be helpful for folks in the chat. Eva says releasing a breath they didn't know they were holding is one that comes up so often. Book groups share picks when they find one. You know, I still see this in books that are recently published, and I think it's like an inside joke now because I can't imagine romance authors or other authors don't know that that's a highly made fun of device, and yet it's still there. So I'm like, I don't know. I think it's like an inside joke. Tiffany's here. Hi. I love interrupting people in dialogue too. Yes. Oh, Jordan says not if you have a Chromebook. Is that about the find and replace? It's so annoying because I want my M dash. Yeah. Oh, I get that thing with the curly quotes and dashes. Yeah. See, little tricks. Yeah, I just answered this. Good. Okay, we're talking about formatting tips and tricks in the chat. This is unexpected. Oh, I see what you mean. That means I would have to leave it that way and then go back, and I guess my hands are trained to just put the extra letter in there so that when I go through it, I'm not looking at it wrong and it's not making me like, because that would happen. Yeah. Well, I don't think so actually, because it wouldn't pick up a double. Yeah, double dashes are never right, so. You might have the feature turned off. Have a root around in the settings. It seems to annoy me with the single tier. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, cliche. We'll do actually cry a single tear. True. True. Richard got it to work. There we go. I just used that holding breath device in my writing yesterday. See, we're all getting out our little, like, I don't know. What's the word? Idiosyncrasies. If we like something, we like something. And you're entitled to write what you want. It's your dang book. Exactly. Boyfriend Project is good and unexpected. Ooh, long though. Whose is that? The title is not specific enough for me to remember. I tend to go back and add the quote versus deleting a letter. But it won't make it face the right way, is what I was saying. That's why. Anyway. Ignore all the mistakes while writing. Doing a review round is a break that makes me feel like I'm working, so I like all the time. That's true. That's the change is as good as a rest sort of mentality. Jordan says, I just had to take out a lot of holding breaths as one of my cliches I overuse according to Pro Writing Aid. Would a Pro Writing Aid know? Right? Oh, man. See? Formatting discussions. We never talk about these because they're too boring. But apparently, they get people all up in their shit. Just hilarious. Just awesome. You guys are awesome. I love hearing like all the little things. It's one of those things that you can't really do a guide video for because people have different computers, people have different programs, people have different features turned off, people have different languages enabled. So like it would be really hard to make one that would be working for all the people looking for it. I mean, I guess you still could. But yeah. Whew. All right. So that was my September romance roundup. As I said, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the mystery one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish for the nonfiction one. And you'll have to wait to find out how my other readathons went, which was series September and Shorty September. So hopefully that'll reel you in for the next videos. I normally post Sundays at 11 Pacific. Wednesdays at 11 Pacific, and Friday night we often have little panels going on. So we'll see about that. And yeah, happy October, everybody. It is a busy month and we're going gangbusters. So I hope things are going well for you all out there as well. Farah Rochon is the author of The Boyfriend Project. Thank you. Awesome. I will put it in my queue. Thank you, Jordan. This was good fun. Yay, great wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming in and commenting. And get ready for some weird fiction coming out. That's all I got for you today. So have a great rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is you've got. Stay safe out there, everybody. Bye.